Hello, my name is Chris Shelton.
And I'm Parisa Shelton. Welcome to Find Your Fulfillment.
Your journey to emotional well-being with Qigong.
Well, Happy New Year 2025. And as we get started into the segment number 1, can you just tell us a little bit of your thoughts about what fulfillment means to you?
Well, fulfillment is different for everybody. And we're like a cup or a container. In that container, we house so many different aspects of our life. We have our family, we have our friends, we have our vocation, we have our spiritual traditions, our religious practices that we study. There's so many different things. And then we have the things that we enjoy doing, like for me, it's Qigong and art and cooking. And so it's whatever it's going to be for you that's going to bring you the most happiness. And it doesn't matter how small that may be or seems small to somebody else. What matters is what fulfills your well-being. And in particular, your mental, emotional well-being. Because in order to have true fulfillment is to be able to have a balanced mental, emotional state.
I really like what you said with the analogy of us being like a container. So fulfillment is like the container's not empty and it's not overflowing. There's that right in between balance of I'm enjoying where I am. I love where I am, and I'm excited for what's coming in as well.
Yeah, and the great thing about Qigong, and I didn't know that Qigong was going to be my vocation, my career. I didn't realize early on, and when I was in my 20s, when I first started practicing Qigong, that this was going to be my life's purpose. I mean, I was a butcher for 21 years. I mean, I did my freelance. I did my AP studies in art. I went to vocational school to get my automotive licenses. And really, it wasn't until after starting the business that I realized, I really love and enjoy serving and helping people. And so I think one of the things that Qigong has brought for me, and I've seen it's brought for other people too, is it helps you to find your life purpose. So if you're somebody who hasn't found that life purpose, and because that's part of your fulfillment is your vocation, if you haven't found that life purpose yet, what's nice is as you practice these ancient practices of Qigong more and more, your vibration changes and becomes much more refined and gets you closer to God or to spirit.
And the cool thing is that it really taps into that present moment awareness so that you become so hyper-focused on this moment now that it's like you're fulfilled. All the other things go away.
Well, that's the thing, you could tell when you have fulfillment in your heart, mind, body, and soul, when you are the nucleus, everything around you is the satellites or the planets, and if they're out of discord or whatever, it doesn't affect your center. That's, to me, that's also part of the fulfillment process, is that if I'm centered in my own beingness and my connection with God, my connection with truth, and my connection with what I say, I follow up and I do, then it doesn't matter what's going on around me. Even if there is the chaos going on around you, whether it's politics, whether it's in the family, whether it's a health crisis with somebody, or even if it's a health crisis with you, this is the key thing. It doesn't have to disrupt your center. You can still have a chronic condition and still be fulfilled. And that's one of the things that Qigong actually brings for us is that, we have the inactive state, which is the mindfulness state, and then we have the active state of Qigong, which then gives us the tools in order to be able to process through different things and at the same time really feel fulfilled inside. If your organs are functioning right and your mental emotional state is balanced, that is fulfillment right there. That helps to bring the fulfillment, because if you're well inside, and again, I'm just going to repeat this again, if you're well and balanced in your body, mind, and spirit, and physically and emotionally doing well, that's fulfillment in of itself, because you could have all the things that you want. You could have all the luxury cars, you could have the beautiful house, you could all have the jewelry, whatever. That's okay as long as you're not attached to it. Really, the reality is that the fulfillment comes from within, so you can't seek outside. And that's also, too, in relationships, too. One of the things that I like about our relationship is I'd say that we have an interdependent relationship. And in that interdependency, I think it is healthy as opposed to codependent, where somebody needs somebody else to survive, for example.
Right.
And I hear that a lot, like, I need my mom to be healthy, otherwise I can't survive without her. Or my sister needs to act a certain way, or my brother needs to be a certain way. No, it's really about coming back to ourselves. Scripture, all spiritual traditions, at least that I've studied, they all come back to coming back to yourself.
It's the kingdom within.
Amen.
And I do really appreciate that about our relationship too, is like we're very strong, independent people, but then we're also have this nice groove of interdependency and the ability to be married and live together and have that matrimony, and then also to co-create even this video right now and work together. It's like a dream come true. And we want that same type of fulfillment and alignment that we have found for you as well.
Yeah, and it didn't come overnight for me.
Right.
I mean, when I first
The
met
layers.
Parisa, I came with a full basket, a full load, man. I'm talking. I had two.
No, you don't have to go into details.
No, I think this is because it's really the truth about how I got
It's true.
here. It's not like it just happened overnight. But the reality is that this full basket. I mean, I came with 2 ex-wives, 4 kids, and a partridge in a pear tree. And oh my gosh, But in the process of diving deeper with these qigong practices, we were able to resonate at a similar frequency when we met. If I wasn't doing the work prior to meeting with Preset, this relationship would not have worked because I was too much. I know for myself, I was too much of a wild guy, and so toning it down some
That's
for me.
right. I was a wild lady, but maybe that's how we aligned.
Aligned to, yeah, we've toned it down quite a bit.
Yeah.
Look at within yourself of what fulfillment means to you. I've given you some ideas of what it means to me. A new book, Chris Shelton's Easy Guide to Emotional Well-Being with Qigong. That's the great thing about this book, is full of practices that can help you achieve that ultimate life that you're designed and God meant for you to have.
Wow, it's such a beautiful book, and stay tuned because we have a special offer regarding that book towards the end of the segment. So the second part of our journey together is the emotional well-being with Qigong. So how do you interlink emotional well-being with the practice of Qigong and fulfillment?
Well, one of the things in the style of Qigong that we teach here at Shelton Qigong at our Morning Korean Healing Arts Center here in Burbank, also in San Jose, California, is that we focus on the 5 major organs of the body and how those 5 major organs of the body all house a different negative emotion, or specific negative emotions get stuck in these specific organs of the body. And I didn't just make this stuff up. This is through thousands of years of observation on the body. This is the foundation of classical Chinese medicine. Qigong was the origin before acupuncture came about, because people were so innately in tune with nature and their environment and their interconnectedness with nature and other people within their society, that they were able to sense and recognize that, hey, these different internal organs actually are affected by different emotions. Now, the great thing is that when we talk about the fulfillment, is as we process through the layers of these different negative emotions, then the positive virtues come forth. So, for example, the positive virtue of love comes forth. So I know for myself, going back to coming with 2 ex-wives and all that kind of BS, the reality is that my heart was cut off. I was definitely cut off. I remember this, we were doing a feng shui class. I was doing a feng shui class at my studio in San Jose. Master Mark Johnson came and hosting the 5-element feng shui class. And he called me out in front of all of my students. He said, Chris, your heart is cut off. And I was. I didn't want to feel love. I didn't want to show love. I didn't want to be loved. But it was through the practices that I was able to heal that and allow for the love to shine through. But also, too, when you have the positive virtue from the liver, when we say the anger, resentment, when it's held on to, the positive virtue of the liver is creativity, is being in that creative flow.
Expansion.
Yeah, so kindness, creativity, inclusion, we also like to say. Positive virtue of the lungs is courage. So when you walk through the grief, so you lost a loved one, you lost a pet, you had a relationship breakup or whatnot, and then as you process through that, then it's that courage to be able to move through, to be able to take the next step, to be able to let go of the negative feeling or process through the negative feeling and keep the fruit, which is the positive virtue to be learned from the situation. And
so
then
release the sadness, step into your courage, strong self.
Yeah, and then if you have PTSD or if you are fearful, you have shock, you survived a severe illness, or, you witnessed or saw something that was very disturbing to you, that injures the kidneys. But as we process and build the kidney chi, then our willpower, this gentleness, because kidneys relate to water. Think about the gentle creek. Yeah, the gentle creek moving through the mountains, soft and flowing. That's that water element, right? And then we have our intellect, which belongs to the spleen. So if we have worry, if we have anxiousness and anxiety over situations, Then we have, once we process through that, then we have the positive virtue of peace of mind and serenity. So when we look at emotional well-being and fulfillment with Qigong, the fulfillment comes as we process through, and those positive virtues actually get to shine through. God didn't design us to have the suffering in order for us to continue to suffer. No, it's like, okay, well, if we have suffering show up in our life, then we have these practices to help us process that and then learn from it, share that learning experience with somebody else, and step into fulfillment by allowing those positive virtues to shine forth.
I equate it to the same type of pressure that turns carbon into a diamond. It's that pressure of the human existence that allows us to reach our highest potential.
Amen.
Okay, and let's just back up for a moment. And for those who are completely new to Qigong, can you just give us the quick one-sentence version of what Qigong is?
You want me to give an elevator pitch right here? Okay, you asked for it. Qigong is an ancient practice. The word Qi stands for the life force energy that emanates through all living things. If you have a hard time understanding or conceiving what Qi is, just think of it in terms of blood or fluids inside your body. If your blood is strong and vibrant, guess what? Your vitality is strong and vibrant. If your Qi or if your blood is deficient, guess what? You don't have the energy to do things, or you don't like to speak, or you don't like to engage in the activities that you once liked to engage in. Gong is a skill in which we harness this life force energy within our bodies, also our environment too, in order to be able to cultivate this essence of life, to be able to harmonize all these internal organs of the body and to harmonize all the other tissues that are associated with these other internal organs. And so Qigong is a system, or is a practice. It's not a belief structure. It's a practice that you can implement into your life daily. It's easy to do. You don't need a special mat. You don't need special clothing. You take it with you anywhere. You do it from a seated position. You do the practice from a standing position or lying down position. Even creatively visualize it. So if you're a paraplegic, I recommend visualizing, watching some of my videos on YouTube on Shelton Qigong, for example, like the 30 days of Qigong on YouTube. Even just visualizing will give you the power to be able to start to transform your life. We have a tagline that Qigong is a simple practice with profound results. And if you practice 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll see the transformation for yourself, whether you have chronic pain, whether you have brain fog, you're having sleep issues, or emotional issues, maybe you're suffering from some depression or some anxiety. That's one of the great things about this style of Qigong. Now, there are other styles of Qigong out there, and some just really focus on the feel-good aspects, and right on, that's cool. But here at Morning Crane, at Shelton Qigong, we really want you to
focus on the medicinal.
What is the medicinal aspect? So no matter what practice that I'm teaching you in my new book, for example, Chris Shelton's Easy Guide to Emotional Wellbeing, no matter how easy or simplistic the practice is, every single practice is meant to do something medicinally inside the body. The cool thing about this book is that I'm introducing you to the simple theories of classical Chinese medicine and then how that applies to the Qigong practices. So this is not a book that's just blah, 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 blah. There's a little bit of blah, but the reality is that there's 30 chapters of actual Qigong practices that I teach you. It actually corresponds with the 30 days of Qigong videos that we have on YouTube. So, and there's the other style of Qigong too. It's for internal martial arts. There's other people that teach Qigong for mysticism. We like to keep it a very grounded approach. We want to give you the foundational practices that's really going to enhance your life and understand why you're doing the practice that you're doing, not just because it feels good.
It does feel good.
It does feel good. And relaxation, by the way, relaxation is a byproduct. We're going deeper with this.
We're going deep.
Deep.
Diving deep. And the other really exciting thing about the book, which is being released where books are sold on Amazon and other bookstores starting January 14th, following that, we are going to be doing some live group classes, reading chapter by chapter, lesson by lesson from the book, and we'll be giving you more details about that towards the end of this series. My next question is about stress, just stress, because in our modern day society, I feel like we're constantly being bombarded. We're deliberately distracted on our devices. There's so much. How do you equate stress with Qigong, with fulfillment, and if somebody is really just like so stressed out, what is your number one recommendation?
My number one recommendation is the heart healing sound. And the reason why is because the heart is the emperor, empress of the body. That heart of yours is going to dictate how much of an emotion is going to be expressed or suppressed. You know, for years, science is trying to say that our consciousness was in our brain, but they figured out finally that, no, actually our consciousness is here in the heart. And so that heart takes the brunt. So it doesn't matter if you have a broken heart or you just lost a loved one or a pet, or if you're angry at somebody, or if you're afraid of a situation or got anxious about a situation or a circumstance. The heart healing sound is something you take with you anywhere. You could do it in the car, you do it audibly out loud, or if you're in public, you could do it underneath your breath. So instead of suppressing it, because what the stressors do is it creates inflammation and disease inside the body. And this is what actually that stress, if it builds up, that's what leads to burnout, by the way. One of the first steps of reversing burnout is to recognize that, hey, I have symptoms, whether I'm constipated now, or I'm having digestive issues, I'm having disturbances in my sleep, or I'm blowing up. You know, the most minor thing is causing me to snap.
Or things you used to love to do, you no longer bring you fulfillment or joy?
Yeah, so being able to recognize, like, hey, I have these health issues going on, and then to recognize, and then to have a community of people, and that's what's great about Shelton Qigong, is that we have a community of like-minded people, just like yourself, who want to improve their well-being and be with other like-minded people that are also interested in the same thing, who are also going through the same struggles that you're going through as well. And I think that's important, because in your community, you need a support system. That's how you reverse burnout as well too, is you could develop a support system. And with our Qigong family, with Shelton Qigong, we have that support system, that support network, whether it's on the YouTube page or on the Qi Club that we have, or our Qigong teacher training courses. We have the support system and the structure there for you to be able to reverse the stressors, get them under control. I'm not saying that every day is not, you're not going to have any days with no stress. No, that's really impossible, especially if you live in society. But the reality is that you could get it to a place to where it doesn't have an effect on your system.
And then when you do get bombarded with stress, now you have a specific tool or technique that you can go and release in a healthy, natural, positive way.
Yep, for sure.
That's cool. Thank you so much. Are you going to show us the heart healing sound?
Oh, okay. So the heart healing sound is something very easy to do. You do this from a seated or standing position, and you're going to gently close your eyes if you're not driving anyways. You're going to gently close the eyes, and I want you to visualize and feel a situation that affects your heart. Whether it's something over the holidays that just passed, or we had some of that, or we're doing a lot of this, Anyways, whether it's something over the holidays that just passed, something in your community or whatever, I want you to visualize that, who's involved, what's involved. It could be a present day moment, circumstance or issue, or it could be something from the past. I want you to visualize that, feel it, who's involved, what's involved, what was the environment like, were there any smells, sounds, etc. Was it indoors, outdoors?
Okay.
Bring that to the forefront into your thought. I want this to be as real as possible. And then as you inhale, what's going to happen is you're going to pull this pink cloud into the heart. And then as you exhale, you're going to make the ha
Place your hands on
sound.
your heart.
You can place your hands on your heart if you want, or you can just have your hands at your side. So she'll place her hands at the heart. I'm just going to have my hands at my side here. Okay. As I exhale, I'm going to imagine the circumstance leaving like a dark cloud out of my mouth, going several feet away from the body, going deep into the ground. Okay, so just run through it. Inhale. Again, inhale. Inhale. And then once again, if you're in public, we do the sound underneath our breath. Inhale. And continue, and as you make the ha sound underneath your breath, imagine the circumstance leaving like a dark cloud, going several feet away from the body and deep into the ground. With each inhalation, you feel this pink cloud sink deeper and deeper into the heart muscle itself. And then as you exhale, you feel and you visualize that circumstance, or if it's just a feeling of anxiety, you don't even know what it is attached to. Allow for that feeling of the anxiety or the sadness to leave like a dark cloud going several feet away from the body, deep into the ground. And by doing so, we bring forth the positive virtue of love. Yeah, simple,
Very
right?
nice.
Yeah.
Wow, I feel so relaxed. Thank you so much.
Something so powerful. It seems kind of goofy to do, but it's so simple and it's so effective.
It's so effective.
Honestly, yeah.
So what's like a major objection that you normally hear for someone, like goofy, or they might feel silly? What would be your suggestion to somebody who's feeling uncomfortable with the practice itself?
Well, let's say doing the heart healing sound. If you're feeling uncomfortable doing the practice, do the sound underneath your breath. Do it privately. You don't have to do it in front of other people. And you'll see the effects for yourself, especially if you really make it into a mindfulness practice of connecting with a specific circumstance and or situation, and do that heart healing sound. You actually will see like, oh, wow, I actually feel better. That anxiety or that sadness, that sorrow is actually a little bit less. And that's what we're looking for. And one of the other things that I get is that, oh, Chris, is this some kind of pseudoscience?
That's what I was just going to say, because you had brought up earlier about how the practice is doing something medicinally inside of your body. So when you use words like that, people might say, oh, well, this is pseudoscience, or this is fake, or I don't believe in it. So what do you say to that?
Harvard Medical School has written all kinds of papers on this. Stanford, there's numerous medical journals and papers on the positive effects of Tai Chi, Qigong, and mindfulness meditation. You can look it up for yourself. We have other people, that are in the Qigong community that we're friends with that actually are physicians or doctors that are doing the documentation and the research showing, for example, the positive effects of long haul COVID, for example.
Yeah, we saw that.
It's not a belief structure again. And when people say it's pseudoscience, well, it's been around for thousands of years. And if it was fake, then it would have a way of doing itself in.
That's right.
So when we say the medicinal qualities, because yes, we need tools to reduce inflammation inside of our body. Besides a bad diet or eating processed foods or drinking too much or whatever, the leading cause of death and disease is negative emotions and stress. That creates so much inflammation inside the body. A family member recently here was hospitalized because her liver enzyme counts were at 1,300. They should only be at 30. And they brought her in. Physicians could not figure out what was wrong with her. And after speaking with her, I was like, oh, well, I know what's wrong. It's, number one, it's your old anger, right? So the old anger that you have. And it's part of her upbringing. She grew up in an abusive home in Philly, right? And only had the mother around, the father took off. So carrying that around all these years. And then if you're in an environment where, your spouse, or is yelling, or there's anger, frustration inside the house,
angst.
This is why her liver enzyme counts were so high.
Gotcha.
But guess what? Giving the liver healing sound and movement, also we gave some herbs, Chinese herbs, her numbers dropped drastically.
And this just happened like 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, and she was in constant pain and vomiting. And they couldn't figure out
both
why. Both ends, vomiting, diarrhea.
And now she's like...
Fine,
doing better.
And it's not magic. Going back to the very beginning of our conversation, talking about us being a container. Well, in her case, her container was full.
There you go.
And not full of fulfillment, even though she has a lot of possessions and, financial wealth, and worldly experiences. But part of that container was full with this old
resentment and anger.
Angst, that accumulated over the years. And so guess what? Finally, the body said, okay, because I'm contained within this container here.
My container's full.
I have to show it somehow. And then it started to show up as these really, really dangerously high liver enzyme counts, which can be...
Thank you so much for all your help.
Yeah, for sure. Again, understanding how the body functions, understand how these organs function according to science. In Chinese medicine, these internal organs have a much, much, much greater functionality. So that's why when the physicians were saying that they don't know why her counts are so high, and then I did some Q&A with her and gave her these practices, well, it worked.
It was a miracle.
It worked. And she's somebody who's very skeptical.
Very skeptical.
I mean, she's a PhD physicist, for crying out loud. So very skeptical. But guess what? Now a new awakening has happened. And that awakening can happen for you.
that awakening has happened for you. Wow, that was so fulfilling. I feel so excited about this conversation. I can't wait to edit and release this video. And please make sure you join us tomorrow where we talk about the link between emotions and chronic pain.
So deep. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, please join us again tomorrow. We want to hear from you. So thumb up, give a like to this, leave a comment below, ask a question, and we'd love to give you an answer to whatever your question is, because that's what we're here for. Self-empowerment comes when you have the knowledge. Subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and leave a comment of what you think about today's discussion.
Until next time, we will chi you later.